Yeah, so I'm so excited, Claire, that we get to bring in 2021 with talking with you about your life and your work and everything. I think a funny starting place might be, we were talking right before we started recording a little while back, about our respective imposter syndromes.
Yes. Yeah, so I would like to start by saying that I'm incredibly flattered to be a guest here. So initially, Daniel had asked, "Hey, do you want to be on Bang Rocks TV?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And I hadn't really thought about it. And then Carolina sent me an email with a release form and a list of questions, and I was like, "Oh, this is like a real thing. This is like a thing." And it proceeded to get very nervous about it. But then reminded myself that, you know, this is my dear friend Daniel, and we're just going to have a conversation, and it's going to be fun because all of my conversations with Daniel are fun, and they're always about cool art, technology, philosophy, magic, and all kinds of stuff. So yeah, I just decided to not worry about it and just show up.
And I just think it's neat having that conversation around it because, of course, you know, you were such a key part of Banging Rocks getting going. And I remember being very much sort of heart in my throat initially contacting you. You know, we've known each other for ages through my sister and through some of the communities that we're part of. But being like Claire's someone who's like really doing this stuff, and like I'm kind of keen to chat with her to see if we want to maybe play together, but was very much feeling like a little minnow in a really big pool. So I very much resonate with that feeling of, you know, real
and
fame.
and look at what you're doing now, right? Yeah, you've yeah, taken Bang Rocks and have been really running with it. And I'm really glad that I got to be there at the beginning, even though I wasn't really able to kind of stick in with the close work of it. I'm glad I still get to be on the periphery a little bit and see what's happening.
Yay. So maybe by way of introduction, we can talk a little bit about, you know, sometimes the way we phrase it is that piece of like, what are your superpowers and what do you do with them? And I know there's so many different directions of creativity and community that you're engaged with. Do you want to talk a little bit about some of those?
Yeah. So I'm an artist. I started as a traditional artist, pencil and paper, graduated up to paint. I work in oil and acrylics. I've done some sculpture. I did go to school for a while, but I dropped out because because we did not share similar views on how art should be handled and judged. Mainly in that I don't think it should be judged, which doesn't really mesh with the institutional format of art. So yeah, I dropped out and then just did life for quite a long time until I met my husband Frank. I've been married to Frank for 21 years. 21 years. I don't know. After 20, you kind of forget. Um, and yeah, 21. No, whatever. I've been with him for 21 years. I know that. And he worked at a video game company. He worked at Relic Entertainment, and while I was there hanging around, you know, I met a lot of people, met a lot of artists there, and I kept seeing what they did. I'm like, I'm pretty sure I could do this, right? Like I could figure out how to convert this stuff into some other stuff, right? I could do that. And I was lucky enough to get some help to go to Vancouver Film School. Frank's sister helped us out with that. And so I spent a year at Vancouver Film School taking the 3D animation and digital effects program, which was not fun. It was still pretty new at the time, and it was a really well, it's still a very fast-paced environment. And the idea is that they're giving you a taste of everything so that you can kind of get an idea of what parts of the pipeline that you like, and then try to provide you with some tools that you'll need to actually function in the workplace once you get out there and into it. And it took me a little while to get out there and into it, but I did. And yeah, that was 15, 16 years ago. So I've worked at a number of studios and I've shipped about 20 titles. Worked on everything from AAA to mobile to console to VR, AR. Yeah. So the traditional plus tech. And yeah, lately we've been doing 3D printing stuff, which I'll get into a little bit more later.
Yeah, no, I definitely want to talk about some of the, I mean, one of the things that I think is really neat, there's so many things that I love about your creativity and your work, but is that you'll have sort of a theme that you're working with, and then that theme sort of kaleidoscopes out into the different realms that you work in. And
Yeah.
watching how that happens is super cool. I'd love to.
I love to get oversaturated.
Yeah.
Like, and if I'm working on a project, I want all of the things I can take in to be related to that thing, so that I can infuse whatever I'm working on with all of that stuff. And it kind of, that kind of goes with everything. I mean, as well as doing the traditional art and the techie stuff, I also sing and dance and spin fire, because why wouldn't I? Because all of it to me is a different expression of rhythm and contrast. And that's really all it is. It's rhythm and contrast. And if it's play. It's getting those things to kind of play together and create something that is engaging and that people can connect to, or at least think is fun to watch, fun to look at. Right? If I'm doing it right, they're going to feel something. And if it's just if it's not magic, I hope they'll at least enjoy it.
No, I love that piece of sort of there's, you know, each of the different domains has its specificity and has its techniques and such that you know. But that heart of it seems to be that piece with the rhythm and play as well. Like, I mean, as you say, that's something that seems really key. What are some of the projects that have been kind of occupying you lately? What have you been working on or thinking about?
These ones.
Yeah, I'd really like you to talk about that.
Yeah, so where we are right now is where I sit every day for work, but it's also where I do my painting. I live in a loft, and we've kind of sectioned off this one corner so that I can have all of my stuff in one place. And for a while, I tried to like put my easel away when I was working and like only bring it out if I was going to do some live streaming or something. And then I decided that was way too much fucking effort, and it doesn't matter. And everybody knows that I do all the things, so not going to clean up my space. Here it is. So how far back should I go on this?
I would love to. I mean, the seed for what led to that specific whole set of work, I think, is so cool, and is so, I mean, again, the way you take like core parts of yourself and the stuff that you're working on and turn that into work is interesting. So I think as far back as you want to go on that side.
Okay, so I'm going to go way back. Pull up a chair. So this actually started a number of years ago when so I dance, but I specifically focus on Middle Eastern dance, belly dance. And I've been doing it for 20 plus years, 25 years, I don't know anymore. And I love it. It's important. My Lebanese teacher is fantastic, and I hope to be her when I grow up. She's such a huge inspiration. But then important conversations came up in the world, specifically about cultural appropriation. And I started feeling really deeply uncomfortable about being yet another white belly dancer in the world. And does the world actually need another white belly dancer? And the answer is probably fucking not. and I pulled back from it, and I started thinking really hard about, okay, well, what can I do that is not appropriating? You know what I mean? Like, what is mine, right? So I started looking into what is my cultural heritage? What is my like genetic crossroads? And I had already been doing a bunch of work in genealogy, and I'm from Montreal, and my mom's side are all English speakers, and my dad's side are all French speakers, and it's a pretty typical scenario in Montreal. And the fun thing about genealogy in Quebec is that if your family is French and Catholic, the records are fantastic. So if you can get far enough back to hit the records that are publicly available, you can just track it back to the 1600s. Like, you should still go and like confirm that those things are all actually correct. But for the most part, I've been able to track back really far, and like to locations in France, and that's really cool. And to other things too, like, you know, other there's some Hungarian in there, and which was so cool because my mom had always told me that my French grandmother made the best cabbage rolls, and that was so funny. I'm like, why does my French grandmother make the best cabbage rolls? And when I asked this question of my French family, when I finally reconnected with them, the answer was that, oh, well, there was some Hungarian or something, like back way back. We don't really know. Well, I found him. I found this Hungarian, and it was great. And also interesting was watching how the name changed, because the name was originally Kowalski, which is basically Smith, but over centuries it changed into Coach.
Okay.
Just Coach, Coache. Yeah, Coach.
Amazing.
Or Coach in French. Yeah, so neat stuff. I find that stuff so fascinating. And as I got kind of deeper and deeper and deeper into this stuff, well, now I want to know history. I want to know this. I want to know that. Okay, well, what was happening in France? Okay, how did France become France? How did what was in Scotland before the Scots? You know, and trying to really get in there, and then you know, looking at geographically where a lot of my tracings were pointing me to, trying to figure out, okay, well, if I were to make art that incorporated all of this, what would it look like? How can I take the Celtic part and the French part and probably the Viking part, and I don't know what the Hungarian part, like one Hungarian, I don't know. I think that's maybe I'll put a little paprika on it and that's it. And trying to create like a maybe an art style, but if nothing else, a series of work that allows me to dig into that. So as I'm doing my research, it's a lot of watching documentaries and you know, reading history books and looking at massive reference books full of art and artifacts from different peoples and different eras, and those are rabbit holes I could spend all day down, and frequently do. Like, there are days in a row where I don't get anything actually done because I'm too busy with my nose in a book or in a documentary. So and I love it, and I have such a deep love of music, and John knows this because John and I get to connect about music all the time. And so when I'm painting, I don't want just any music. I want the music that's going to evoke that. I want to feel that when I'm doing that, you know?
Yeah.
So also, part of the reason why it takes me so long is that I'm also spending time in Spotify and on the internet trying to find enough fodder to keep me going while I'm doing it. Yeah, so that's my process, and I've been really enjoying it with this orange one behind me. It was I wanted to, well, there was that day that I came over to visit, and you introduced me to Lolita, and she is a very talented oil painter, and she does all the old techniques that I never got to learn how to do, and it was very inspiring to me to see her work, and also to see her just be such a cool person, and to have such a great attitude about her approach. And yeah, I felt better about being an oil painter that probably doesn't use her oil paints properly.
Well, one of the things that strikes me so deeply, that I think it's a similarity, but there's something that really strikes me about your work is, you know, you talk about not getting something done because you have your nose buried in a book or in a documentary. Whereas it really strikes me as being very much in that old classic, like artistic master style, that like you're not simply painting a thing there, like the amount of self and history and knowledge and research that you're synthesizing to make the work that you create is just vast. And so that what's behind the canvas is so deep. And I think that aside from its visual compellingness, that adds this incredible richness that's there in the works. So yeah, I mean, to take it as an example, do you want to talk a little bit about with that sort of that trefoil flower that's there, like where that idea for working with that came?
Yeah, let's talk about that. So I will bring up a picture, hopefully. While I'm bringing this up, I'll talk about wanting to teach myself how to do underlayers and like underpaintings and glazing layers. So basically what that is that you lay down the painting in all of its rough details first in a base color, and then you paint over it in these thin layers. And as you build up those layers over and over again, oh dang, I don't have it here. All right, well, maybe we'll link to it later. So I picked this to teach myself that. I'm like, it's a nice, simple geometric design, and I'll use that as a teaching tool for myself to learn how to do this underpainting and glazing. And it's been going pretty well. But if you may remember from primary school, if you combine complementary colors, you will frequently get a disgusting brown, right? So when I put, I thought when I was reading up on underpaintings, if you, like, I love Maxfield Parrish. His artist did these fantastic skies that always looked like they were just like lit from within and everything. I thought, I want to learn how to do that. I want to learn to do that. How do I do that? And I was reading that he did complementary underpaintings. So if he was going to do, a very orange sunsetty sky, he would put a blue underlayer. I'm like, how does that even work? It's going to be mud. So I did it. So I decided to do a painting that was complementary colors to start with. I'm like, okay, I'll pick blue and orange, and then I'll reverse the undercolor. So where the orange is blue underneath, and where the blue is, it's orange underneath. And yep, the first couple of layers were disgusting. They were disgusting. I'm like, I don't know what I'm going to do here. This is kind of gross. Hopefully I can just add enough layers that it stops being disgusting. And this is layer 5. And when I finally put layer 5 on, it started to change, and it started to look like something was happening. And I've said it before, I'll say it again because it's true. It feels like somebody turned up the saturation on my eyeballs. Like it pops really, it's loud. It's very, very loud. And I like it. Like it's definitely a technique that I'll be using again. I didn't use it on the other two that are there because one mind-bending experiment at a time is enough for me. Thank you. So to where this came from, Celts, particularly the Latin period. So late Bronze Age, no, not Bronze Age, early Iron Age. So I was particularly looking at just before and just after 0. Right? So 1st and 2nd century BC AD, kind of in there. And I'd found a picture of a portion of a harness, like from a horse's bridle or something, that was this beautiful spirally thing. And it really had the elements of that Latin period, swirly organic stuff that I kind of have a hard time wrapping my head around. Like there's this stuff that's kind of your basic, sorry, I'm going to cough. Basic knotwork stuff that is really popular with the Celtic revival, and we see that kind of knotwork everywhere. But Latin is a bit different and a bit more Art Nouveau, where you'll get thin shapes and then bulbous shapes, and it's kind of flowery, but you're not really sure. Maybe it's a trumpet. I don't know. There's all this. It's a bit more gushy, but it's still very geometric and very planned. And I hadn't really been wrapping wrapping my head around it. Like, how do I want to be able to freehand that stuff, because I can freehand knots, but I can't freehand all that cool stuff that those Latin artists did. So that was also a mission for this, was to, if I get my hands on it, if I actually am touching it and making it, maybe I will be able to drill it into my head and understand what the format is. Can I pick up the format for being able to freehand it? Because I'm a notorious freehander. I really am I'm too impatient to plan. I just want to go now. Now, make the thing now. So yeah, so I had this picture of this cool thing, and I started sketching it, and I might actually have my sketch of it here. Started sketching it, and as I was sketching it, realized that it could kind of go either way, where this is more the original.
Thanks a lot, dear.
There,
Yeah.
I get both at the same time. That's more the original, and you can see that I've actually reversed the negative space. So here, the dark parts are on the very outside. The round bits there are the dark parts, the receding parts,
Yeah.
and the positive parts are these trumpet shapes, right? But for this, I made it more like a flower, so that, yeah, negative space reversed, because I thought that would be fun. And I thought, well, maybe my next project is I'll take same size canvas, same colors, same underlayer and everything technique, and I'll flip it. I'll flip the negative spaces again, so that we have, you know, and just have it be like that kind of fun play, practicey stuff.
I love it. One thing I want to do, so this has been such a neat chance to, and I think it's something that we don't do often enough, of like zooming into the detail of what's behind a piece. I want to zoom out now a little bit and talk about in the different mediums that you work in. One thing that seems like it's often a theme, you're a very connective person. You often are seated at sort of a hub of interesting, creative folks who are doing things, and you bring a lot of intention to that. You are, in addition to being a great artist in all these different ways, you're a real host, and you bring people together to do that sort of thing. I'd love to hear a little bit about, for you, that connection between creativity and community, because I know that's something that's strong for you.
Thank you. It's very flattering. I like art, and I think everybody should do it. And I don't believe in hierarchy in art, and or spirituality or anything like that. I really want everybody to make their stuff, and for it to make them feel good. I remember being incredibly heartbroken once when a really good friend of mine said that looking at my art made her feel sad, because she couldn't do that. And I'm like, oh God, like, don't feel sad. Like, just make more art and show it to me, because I want to see it. It's and I won't say that I never feel sad when I see other people's art, that is just astounding. I find it happens more with dancers, where I see dancers, I'm like, oh God, I'm never gonna be able to do that. It's like beyond me. I can't do that. But that's okay, right? Some of the wisest words about that I ever heard came from my dance teacher, who said, if we'd only have one dancer, you know, we'd only have one dancer. And John could probably tell me there's a Groove Armada song that has a similar line in it, about everybody looking the same or something. But yeah, if everybody danced the same, we would only need one dancer, and that wouldn't be any fun at all. So variety is awesome, and people, in my experience, people need to be encouraged, because even people like me, who are apparently cool enough to be invited to talk on a thing like this, still needs to be talked to about their imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
So we all need it, right? And yep, there are people who maybe don't need it, that they are very confident in their abilities, and they have no problem, you know, going out in the world and doing stuff, and they never feel a shred of can't find the word, self-doubt. but in my experience, they are few and usually not very fun to be around. So yeah, it's automatic to me when I'm talking to somebody about something that is exciting to them and they think is cool, and it makes me think of somebody else I know that is doing similar things or like stuff, or and I'm like, oh, you should meet my friend so and so. Oh, I should connect you to this person. Oh, and I don't think I recognize at the time that I'm being a networker. I'm just excited.
Yeah. Which I think that gives it that much more power because it's organic and it's genuine. It's not coming from an intellectual place of networking as much as from that visceral sense of like, ooh, these people should know each other.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
These people should know each other. and often, like, I don't have to do anything else after that. I just have to go, you go. And and then I get the joy of sometime later being told about all the cool shit they did. I'm like, yeah. Right. And then it's more art in the world, more stuff for me and everybody else to get excited about. And then the more of us that are excited, the more art will get created. And then, yeah. Right.
So I'd love to hear from you like a bit about, because I know you're so involved in there's the Living Closet and all of these different pieces that are really profoundly grassroots, emergent, organic, creative spaces. But then you bridge from there into the AAA game studio, very, very different environment. I'd love to hear a little bit about that, and like how do you find that, and how different is that? And for you, in terms of whether it's acclimatizing or enculturating or bridging, like what does that look like?
I think something happened in the early 2000s that let enough of the weird stuff get mainstreamed enough that I didn't have to be ashamed of being a weirdo anymore. I didn't have to hide being a weirdo from my workplaces anymore. Because it used to be that, I used to work at a bank, and it got around at some point that I was also involved in a circus at that time. And I overheard people talking about me, and well, if she's a circus freak, why is she here? And that kind of stuff, because circus freaks shouldn't have jobs. Like, we're not capable of acting like normal people and handling money, and it's classist.
Yeah.
Quite frankly, it's classist.
Yeah.
And as I've mentioned, I'm not down with hierarchy, and that makes me not keen to hang out with those sorts of people.
Yeah.
So I'm now at a point where I don't have to work anywhere I don't want to. I have enough experience in games. I have enough skills in being an effects artist that I can shop around, and there will probably be somewhere fun for me to go work. And presently I'm working at Gasket Games, and they're amazing there. I've known a lot of the people at Gasket from Relic and from Blackbird, and I've been very lucky to have great art directors in my last 15 plus years in the industry. And being a freak isn't a secret. They all know I'm going to do this today. One of them's here. Hi, Erica. So it's it's a lot easier now for me to blend those things, to have a living closet related thing some weekend, to then go and help out with some burner thing some other weekend, and still make the big deadline at work. And to, in some degree, that has bit me in the ass, in that I did suffer a pretty severe burnout a couple of years ago, which is why I dropped off the Banging Rocks train. I needed to recover and reclaim some of the butter that I'd scraped over too much toast.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I've struck a much better balance now, and I do a lot of my tech work with Gasket, and I do a lot of my my traditional work here at home. Yeah.
What would be I guess there's those different periods. There's sort of that, like, thinking about the side where things were more siloed, where you'd have kind of bank world here, and you'd have like all of the other super cool stuff you're working on over here, and having to keep those a bit separate. And then moving into things being kind of connected and such. If you could give key advice to yourself at any one of those different periods, which stage would you be in, and what advice would you want to give yourself?
Ooh, those are good questions. First and foremost, I would tell myself in all stages to not be so goddamn hard on myself.
Yeah.
Seriously, people, do not be so hard on yourself. Yeah, best words a friend ever said to me was, would you speak to your best friend like that? No, I would not. Then do not use those words against yourself.
Yeah.
You know, would you expect someone else to complete that ridiculous list? No, you would not. It's not possible. So pick a few things, do those, do them well, you know? And it's hard when you want to do everything. And you know, we haven't touched on it yet, but part of the thing that burned me out was that I was secretly bipolar. And I had you know, bipolar 2, so not as severe as bipolar 1, but you know, I had developed quite a decent toolbox that allowed me to really make use of the hypomanic phases, which I've since learned is uncommon. That's, you know, that's a pretty high functioning thing to be able to do, and I was doing it. I was channeling all of that like hypomania into doing 6 things at once and kind of excelling at a lot of them.
Yeah.
But it's not sustainable and it's not healthy. And no, you know, nobody should be aspiring to that. And it's been a real reality check to step down from that into an area that is more realistic and actually achievable while maintaining a healthy nervous system. So so now that's become part of what I do too, where taking care of my body, taking care of my mental health, and helping other people learn from my mistakes and sharing the information that I learn about that. Because just as much as I fall down rabbit holes with art, I also fall down rabbit holes to find out more about my freaky nervous system and, you know, brain chemicals. And, you know, I want to know the mechanism of action for the meds that I take. And I want to understand, I basically just want to understand everything, Daniel. That's really it. And I just like, when I understand everything, then I can die and I'll be happy.
And it seems really interesting and significant and key to me that, and it's always hard to tell what is something that is new that's emerging versus something that I have naively been oblivious to, that I'm starting to sort of poke my head into. But whichever one it is, it's really neat finding an increasing degree of community of people where there's that confluence of like the weirdness, like celebrating one's own specific weirdnesses, not just as I don't need to hide it, but like, this is awesome. Like the things that make me weird are awesome things, mixed with the vulnerability and transparency around there of like, here's the places where I totally fall down. And here's the places where I need help or where I need support, or where I need people to just understand when I need to back away from things. And having an increasing degree of community of people who are doing that, and the super cool stuff that can come out of that.
Yeah.
To have a place like Gasket where you're working, where it sounds like you're supported as a person. There.
Yes, I'm out there. I'm out as a queer person. I'm out as a person with mental illness, and I am supported.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that is amazing. They're doing a great job there.
Yeah.
And we're hiring.
Excellent. Nice.
Yeah, little plug for Gasket there.
For sure. But just I'm excited to see how that continues to grow as a piece, and as something that, again, for ages, you have really, to me, felt like you're right at the center of that kind of a place of people who are getting together to share with vulnerability and genuineness, and not afraid to excel at the things that they're amazing at, and to share where their passion is deeply.
Well, I think that's what art is.
Yeah.
Like at the root of it, art is vulnerability. We have to be vulnerable ourselves to make the stuff. And when we look at art that moves us, it takes vulnerability to be moved.
Yeah. Because you do a lot of stuff that is, even if a lot of your art is individual, a lot of it is working with teams, especially in sort of that virtual and game industry side. But also in terms of just the art communities you're a part of, what would you say are some of the hallmarks for the people who you are drawn to working with, the people or organizations that you find are the ones that feed you or that are really enjoyable to work with?
I like to help. I like to help. So yeah, I'm a bit of a do-gooder. I would do more good if I could. You know, I got pretty involved with rangering at the burner events, which is a volunteer safety group. And you know, the only goal there is to help, right? It's to help people who are having a hard time. And you know, art helps people who are having a hard time. And I think there's a lot of potential. You know, this is the root of Banging Rocks, right? Is using our superpowers to make something for the world that will make it better.
Yeah.
And yeah, I just want to help. If I can make something that's going to help people, if all that is just writing a bunch of stuff down, if it's talking about my experience, if it's making some art that demonstrates it, if it's inviting a bunch of people to participate in something that helps them explore it, if it's pointing them at other people who are better at stuff than I am, then great, let's do that.
Yay.
Yeah.
What sort of, it's been such a crazy year, and we can talk more about that after a little bit, but what is kind of current for you, or what's next for you? What are the areas that you're kind of leaning into, or that you're excited to be exploring, whether that manifests as external art or just as the work that goes behind that too?
Right. So this is fun. When I launched myself as an independent artist around the same time that we were starting Banging Rocks, I set up a Patreon for myself. And it was just kind of, I'd taken a business course, and it was kind of part of the marketing thing. And, you know, as a trickle kind of income thing. Ideally, I was going to be getting most of my income from contracts and stuff, but that would just be a little side thing, and a way to keep me visible and accountable and all that stuff. But then I got a job at Gasket, and I kind of felt like I didn't really need to have the Patreon anymore. But it was only a few people, and it was all friends of mine, and nobody seemed particularly interested in quitting. So I continued to deliver my monthly Patreon deliverables, and that was fine. But I actually was finding it kind of stressful, because now I'm also doing the full-time job, and I have this, like, you know, clock is ticking to get something posted on the internet, and, you know, write letters and thank yous, and that in itself, like, to sit down and to write a thoughtful message to patrons. It needs to be genuine. Like, I can't just write, hey guys, thanks for your support, bye. Like, I want to give more than that. And honestly, like, my energy levels are so low sometimes that I can't, you know, because I'm not hypomanic anymore. So I was finding it kind of stressful. And yes, I would, Misha. I would recommend Patreon for wanting to show themselves with employers. It is a great way to keep track of the stuff that you're doing, to have regular posts, even like work in progress stuff. That's what I've been doing on my Patreon. However, then COVID happened. And in March of last year, when we all got sent home, I decided I didn't want to take people's money anymore. That, you know, even if the friends of mine who some of them were not affected, I didn't want to take their money either. You know, I shouldn't be taking anybody's money when I have a perfectly good job that I can do from home during this. So I just paused billing, and I haven't taken any money from anybody since March of last year, and I'm not gonna. And around Christmas, I decided that I was gonna shut it down, that I would send out a message and say, hey, you know, everything I just said, I'll be spinning this down. But before I do, I want to send you all a gift. So I'll be doing that over the Christmas holiday. I wanted to get it out before Christmas, but time. And then I had this task on my hand where I had to come up with a bunch of gifts for people in addition to Christmas everything, right? Because that's a great idea. And thought, well, I'll paint something. I'll make them paintings because, you know, I can do paintings relatively quickly and easily. Oh, boo! I've loaned out my acrylics, so I have only my oils here. So I have to do like 8 oil paintings. That's gonna take forever to dry. I won't be able to do any of that layering stuff. Where am I gonna dry 8 paintings? They'll have to be small. I'll still have to set up some kind of a rack for them. Oh my God, this is a pain in the ass. Okay, maybe I'll do some calligraphy thing. But that's so time consuming. Oh my God, what am I gonna do? And then somebody gave me a 3D printer. So at the beginning of the pandemic, my husband Frank and I had spent some considerable energy helping out our loved ones who were compromised, who really couldn't and shouldn't go outside and do these things by themselves. So if you don't mind me calling y'all out, Stara and Betty and Ashley got together and bought us a 3D printer as a Christmas gift, which I thought was really lovely. And so we've been playing with that, and it's been so much fun. And so the first thing I did was go to my 3D software and build this.
Love it.
Which is the artifact that orange and blue painting is based on. So we printed out about a dozen of these, and they're resin. They've got a nice weight to them. I'm going to try covering them in gold leaf, which is kind of silly, but kind of awesome. I suspect that the surface might be a little too rough and it might show the imperfections a little bit too much. So I'm going to try sanding it down the best I can, then try the gold leaf. And if it doesn't look good, then we'll go to painting miniatures method, right? Which you can get pretty good results that way. Maybe I'll try to do like a iron patina on it or something. Anyway, so that's what we've been working on right now. So I've been doing a lot of work with Frank. It's kind of fun because I've got all the expertise in the 3D modeling portion, and he's got more all the expertise in doing the mechanical parts. So I provide him with the models, and then he does the printing, and then we both sit around and snip all the sprues and do all the standing and stuff, and then I will probably finish it off with the painting. So it's like partial assembly line, but it's a fun little project that we can work on together, which I think was also part of the intention of the gift was something for both of us. So great gift, thank you so much. We're really enjoying it, and I immediately started getting all kinds of ridiculous ideas for art that I wanted to make. One of the things that has really impacted my life is I have degenerative discs, and I have 2 discs that are bulging, and I had an incident where one of those discs hit my L5 nerve and did some permanent damage down my right leg, and I do not recommend that to anyone. It's really sucks. I'm presently working with a wizard physiotherapist who's making incredible progress with me that I was told wouldn't happen. Like I'm recovering stuff that was not supposed to be able to be recovered, which is amazing. And something that I'd done over the summer while I was having a lot of pain was, it was actually just before I started seeing this physiotherapist. I got Frank to help me. I pulled out a pack of colored Sharpies, and we painted a color map on my leg. of where my pain was. So you put red dots down the lines where the nerve hurts the most, and then like orange dots beside where there is pain but not as bad, and then blue dots where it's numb now and I can't feel any pain, purple spots where it would be painful if it wasn't numb, because you can see it follow the line because the pain picks up again on the other side of that blue stuff, right? And like so I did this kind of arty thing of covering my leg in colored dots, and I thought, I want to do a plaster cast of that leg.
Yeah.
And put it up on a plinth so that like you're looking up at it, like, you know, like it's like a big statue, right? Big statue of my leg, and cover it in rhinestones in the color pattern that we had just done. It's ridiculous, but it would be fun, right? It would be very silly. And I like silly art. I mean, I like deep diving into, you know, into the serious art too, but art should also be fun. So I think making a life-size cast of my leg that's covered in rhinestones that is actually a, you know, visual depiction of my pain that is somehow weirdly beautiful. That's my kind of art.
I love it.
But then I remembered that you have a scanner. You have a 3D scanner, right?
Yep.
So between either a 3D scanner like that or doing like a photogrammetry thing with my phone, we could scan my leg and 3D print it and cover it in tiny Swarovski crystals.
Oh, I love it. That is so great. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
That would be great.
That's what I do for fun.
So, I mean, I know as someone who, I mean, you've got the art itself is a passion, and then the connection with people is as well. And you have a lot of sensitivity and consciousness and conscientiousness about how you are in the world as well, I feel like, and about the world generally and kind of where it's at. If you could describe like how you ideally are aiming your work, your art, your passion, the things that you do, what are the pieces of impact that you are most that are closest to your heart in terms of what you're making in the world and can make in the world?
That's a good question, and I don't know if I have a good answer at this time, because things changed. Like getting a bipolar diagnosis 2 years ago was kind of a monkey wrench, right? And accepting that I'm not going to have hypomania coming around every 6 months to help me get shit done changes how I am able to plan for things. And initially, like, you know, 3-ish years ago when I was doing the business course and I was putting together Newcentric as a, you know, my independent contract-based art persona, was an important time, you know, recognizing that I had always been a real artist, because it's hard, right? When you don't finish school, when there's an institutional bias, and when you have friends who say, "Oh, I didn't realize you considered that real art," when when discussing video games. It makes you feel invalid, right? Like you're kind of sort of the thing, but you're not really the thing. And you know, I had this path I was supposed to follow, where I was going to finish high school and I was going to, you know, go to university, and I was going to, you know, finish art school, and I was going to be a famous artist, and that didn't happen. And I always kind of considered that to be the road not taken. And I ended up doing this fun little diagram of it that became my logo, my company logo, where it did not just branch off and end, that it looped back around, because I didn't lose anything from the part of the path that I had taken. I took everything I learned on that path and I applied it to new things. So it looped back around in a different way. And there was another branch, the 3D branch that I went into, and learned all of these technological and all these digital skills that I would never have had if I went the other way. So then for those to come together into one thing, that is the artist that I am.
Yeah.
Right. So in terms of trajectory, you know, a couple of years ago, I was looking at the Canada Council and trying to figure out how can I get grants to do stuff. And I'm still connected with Lorna Boschman, who's does digital stories, and she's such a cool person, and I really enjoy spending time with her, and I really like the kinds of stories that she wants to focus on.
Yeah.
And you know, I took a workshop with her and made a little short film myself, and that was a really great experience. And just recognizing that there's always more ways to express art. You know, you can say having such a big palette means that I can pick the right tool for the job. And if I have enough time and energy, I can tell the same story in 6 different mediums.
Yeah. Yeah.
And because they're different mediums, they speak differently. So you can tell the same story in 6 different ways, and that increases the number of people who might get it. And when I say I want people to get it, it's not driven by I want to be seen and heard. It's driven by I want them to see something in it that helps them.
Yeah.
You know, I want them to feel seen.
Yeah.
Yeah. When I see art that makes me fall down and cry, right?
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. That's amazing. So yeah, it's like it's that work on the art that opens other people up to themselves and to everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's why it makes me so sad when people say it makes them sad to look at my art. I'm like, don't be sad. Go make art. And the palette is huge, right? And stuff that you don't even think is art is art.
And in the same way that, I mean, and this really strikes me when you're, especially as you're saying it, that in the same way that the deep dives that you do around pieces like you're painting there, but that also those myriad different directions that you have gone in that let you weave those together in a way that nobody else could, because you've put those pieces, like that's where you've put the time and energy and passion and experimentation into.
Yeah.
And so in some ways it's almost like the more disparate the better, because they fuse into something that is so uniquely yours. And so like both like yay and thank you for the ways that you share that. And for anyone watching this also, just that piece to really be aware of, that all of the things, and I know I find this often in my life, is the things that are the weird strands that are going in 28 different directions. And the things that I'm like, this, like, there's no plausible justification for me going down this given route right now, but I kind of feel really attracted to it, and so I'm going to. Often it's 7 years later that those come together, and you're like, oh, like I was pre-building the job description for a thing that didn't exist that now I get to do. And so just for everybody to really stay sensitive to like, where are your passions and where are the places that you most love playing?
Yeah.
And then like the more you play there, and again, it's that, you know, more pots makes better pots rather than trying to make the perfect pot kind of thing, that like just get messy and play and mess and create and
Yeah.
and
that is a great description of my trajectory. As I realized, probably more recently than I expected to, was that I actually don't give a shit about Canada Council. You know, I actually don't, I shouldn't say I don't give a shit about the Canada Council. Of course I care about the Canada Council. They give lots of money to lots of artists, and they should keep doing that, and I think it's amazing. But I don't need to participate in that. It's yeah. I make my art for me.
Yeah.
I make my art for me and the people that I'm making the art with, and the people who might see it. And, you know, maybe my audience is small, but that's okay. I don't need a big audience. And the process of applying for grants, and you know, it's not like you just apply for a grant and they give you a bunch of money. Like, you also have to go find other funding, and get some, maybe find other people to also work on it that have skills that you don't, and maybe that's hard to find, and you get stuck and you can't proceed with the thing that you want to make. And sometimes, and just in trying to cook up projects with Lorna for us to apply for grants for, there was frequently that where we're like, okay, well, we can't really do this idea that we had, but we could try to change it so that it will fit into this criteria. So there's always this kind of shifting around of like trying to fit it into what somebody else wants. And that's the same with commercial art and with contract work, that you're always trying to fit it into what somebody else wants. And I do like doing that too. That's basically what I do every day, right? I'm currently working on Warhammer Age of Sigmar Stormground, and it's a really rich, beautiful world, and I get to render it in 3D, and I make the effects for it, and it's amazing and cool. And there's definitely like there's a bar that has to be hit that I didn't set. Well, there are some things that I am actually setting the bar for, but I didn't create this IP.
Yeah.
Like this isn't my idea. But I get to work on a team with people that, and together we're making something that's real. Oh yes, Erica works with me, and we're both working on effects, and yeah, I'll see you later, Erica. And it's really fun. It's fun to be able to do that. So yeah, I don't think I need to chase grants. I'm lucky enough to work in the games industry, which pays me well enough that I can buy all my own art supplies now, and more than I need, actually. I'm not allowed to buy any more canvases. I have a canvas for every painting I could possibly want to make in the next 10 years. Yeah, so
we haven't had a chance to talk about that you kind of wish we had, or areas that you'd like to cover a little bit?
I don't know. I talked a lot.
That was the goal. So, mission accomplished. It's all been amazing.
I really appreciate being able to do this in joy.
Yeah.
Right. There were other times in my life where life sucked pretty hard and money sucked pretty hard, and it was and art came from pain places. And I can still I still use my art to express, examine, explore pain. Like that, the cast of my leg, that's about pain, right? That pain cripples me sometimes, like interferes with my ability to work, stops me from dancing. That's a gut punch to not be able to dance. And it's great to be working with such an amazing physiotherapist now that I am able to dance. I'm probably not up to performance snuff yet, but it's a possibility. Like I could see it on the horizon now, which I had accepted that would never happen again. So it's hope is never gone, really, right? Yeah. If you it may take adjusting expectations, changing, moving the goalposts a little bit. Yeah, but it's good.
Nice. If you're good with it, I'll just quickly, we can open things up. So if other people have any questions or things that they want to throw into the mix. I don't know what your time is like. I know we're right at 2 now.
My time's good. I actually want to just skim back and look at the stuff that I didn't read along the way.
Good. So while Claire's reading that, if anybody has something or other formulating that you'd like to throw into the mix, feel free.
Introductions. Misha has a 3D printer. Matt's a Unity developer. Nice, cool. Oh, Misha's mom is from Montreal. That's cool.
Actually, I have to say one of my early, because when you and I were first talking about the whole VR thing, you know, you'd been working in sort of the VR specific section of video games for a couple of years. And I was just brand new to everything. I was like, what are the different possibilities and what can be done? And one of my memories on that Montreal side that I loved was us getting together and getting the Vive with Google VR and you giving us a tour of your old stomping grounds. And being of us seeing as you were navigating through old streets where you used to live or work or
Oh
hang out.
yeah, right. I forgot about that. That's fun, you know, that's fun. I still do that. I occasionally go drop myself into Montreal to have a walk around, or if I'm, especially right now, like so much is happening in my old neighborhood and they're changing stuff. I want to go see what's happening there, you know.
Yeah, I actually was gonna ask, in your opinion now, and I feel like I'm seeing it myself, is the transition from working like more remotely, you know, especially in digital media, and the expansion of and awareness of digital media, uh, which of course I think includes games and VFX, but and even more specifically games, because the fact that a lot more of these studios are now, you know, hiring remotely because of the pandemic. Do you see that as the, you know, as things slightly go back to normal, will there still be any residual opportunities for studios to get to kind of offer these opportunities, like, you know, like remotely, or maybe they're going to kind of be a lot more flexible with the necessities to work in a studio? Or what do you see as the future in all of that?
I think it'll be more flexible, for sure. The remote working thing didn't turn out to be as bad as a lot of people thought it was going to be. It's definitely has challenges. Like there's, you know, without a doubt there are challenges. But you know, one of the big arguments was that people wouldn't work. They wouldn't get their work done. But guess what? We do. And yes, there is a hit on the performance, but it's not as big a hit as they expected. And it's actually really helpful for a lot of people. It's not helpful for some people. You know, I know a lot of parents who can't get anything done now because they have their kids at home. And you know, that's a different problem to solve though. That's not about working at home.
Well,
That's about
that
availability
also
of
kind of
childcare.
it's funny you mentioned kids, because that brings up another idea in terms of, say, like, you know, in terms of even like the broadening and or narrowing of the market of the content, where, say, maybe generically, maybe they would aim for people in their teens or 20s for a specific game, typically, or even 30s, but maybe like still having that market of, you know, content for the younger audiences as well, and making sure that's still flowing efficiently, and even also, say, offering opportunities where, say, maybe a studio would be able to build like a game, or content that kind of is more based on feedback and suggestions from that younger audience. Because I feel like it's awesome to see these games and stuff that are, you know, built by creative people, you know, that are professionals in the industry. But it's also really cool to see more flourishing of ideas from maybe, you know, your average gamer or whatever, and seeing that kind of being put to the forefront, and showing people see what potentially creative minds can do, even with various age ranges and various types of ideas, right? And even more specifically with people who may have developmental disabilities, because me, myself, and others, I find we are sometimes even more creatively minded than regular people, because it's something we obsess about.
Yeah, for sure. I think we'll see a lot of impact from COVID. Will have impacted more things than we expected. Something that that people were missing immediately were better formats to do what we're doing right now. Right? Like this like Zoom is functional, but there's things it doesn't have. I recently attended a New Year's Eve party that was held in gather.town, and I was pleasantly surprised. You know, I would like them to get more money so that they can improve it, because I think when it gets better, it will be pretty good. And it was, the thing it was good at was simulating mingling, where I could move my avatar around a 3D, like a little 2D environment, and as I moved closer or farther away from people, their video and audio would pop up and go away. And that's cool, right? Yeah. And pretty sure we didn't really have that before, right? So that came out of this. We want more games that we can play with each other online. You know, Tabletop Simulator has existed already, but you know, there's games, like we were big board gamers, and there's board games we can't play now, right? So now we're like, make that.
And I especially love like creative, like building games like Minecraft, because a lot of these kids, they just obsess about it, and they're loving the fact that you can basically customize everything in an engine where everything is all just simple blocks, right? And you can kind of prototype your own experience in it.
One thing that's kind of popping up for me that I just think I'll throw into there is that one of the things that's neat with that mixture of, you know, I mean, the long-term trajectory with gaming, of it being from, you know, hacking and making map building to mods being a much easier thing, to people being able to write spin-off pieces fairly easily, to the overall development tools becoming something that are a little easier to work with. There's that whole piece, but also with, as you were talking about, Claire, the impacts from 2020 in terms of work from home, remote work, more flexible work, becoming something that is more par for the course. The different ways in which that all of these different pieces, well, and those pieces we talked about before, about like being okay to be weird and also being transparent and vulnerable, and all of these pieces, the range of impact that this can have on accessibility in the creation and enjoyment of interactive media is one of the things I think I'm most excited about. The way that can fundamentally change the landscape of what gets built by who and for who. And yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah. Yep. The world is weird right now. Like everything is weird. It feels very surreal. It is definitely feels like Ragnarok. But at the same time, there was some things to hope for, to have hope about. So I'm hoping that that more art is in that, and more capacity to connect with people in a remote way. I used to, years ago, host art parties, because you know I'm in a loft, so I have enough space, and I have spare easel, and you know I can set stuff up so people can come over and do stuff. And you know, I can't do that anymore. Not like I was doing that immediately in the immediate past anyway, but you know, I had, you know, we'd hosted a living closet party not that long ago, and that was really fun. For those who don't know what the living closet is, Daniel, maybe you should explain the living closet.
Sure. I mean, so, you know, its origins were our friends Ruth Tabata and a couple of folks just really realizing how much everybody is wildly creative, and most people hide their creative stuff away and only rarely show it. And it started out as a house party where she invited a bunch of friends to come by and check out and show. Like, the ticket for entrance was making some sort of a creative entry that was going to be there. And so everybody there was an artist, and everybody there was a participant and audience member. And the level of excitement there was around it, and the obvious hunger that there was for it, turned that into a series of house parties that then turned into bigger events, and it sort of, yeah, it turned into this whole big it
was a thing,
welcome thing for a good many years. Yeah.
Yeah, it was a really fun thing. And you know, I've since learned that the term is outsider art. It's art that is not got the institutional stamp of approval. And I'm like, oh, no wonder these are my people. Yeah.
But yeah, so yeah, you've been a host for many different events, of, like you were saying, of that kind, and of the other art parties and things that you like to.
Yeah. I've been thinking about instigating a online art party and doing, whatever you're doing. If you're painting, if you're doing needlepoint, if you're making beaded necklaces, if you're painting your Warhammer figurines, if if you're working on your 3D printer, whatever you're doing, bring it along.
If you want to scheme around a way of like fun ways to do that, know that I'm like 100% in. I love that idea. That's such a great.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised.
Thank you so much for taking the time, for being here, for all of the things that you did as such an extraordinary partner in getting Banging Rocks off the ground and sharing the inspiration and the vision and the knowledge and everything that has made any of this possible. And yeah, just for being a wonderful dear friend.
Thank you, Daniel. And thank you. It's you are also an inspiration. Just before we go, I want to point out that Daniel helped me recognize that I wasn't typical.
Yeah. Before we go, Toby, let's talk a little bit about that, because there's a really interesting piece there.
Yeah. So when I was a little kid, I was very, very clever, and I did well in school, and I got invitations to special things, but because of circumstances, I wasn't able to go. And it was a real kind of blow to me at the time, and I basically stopped trying. So my grades plummeted, and I pretty much hated school for the rest of my life. But the hungering for doing stuff, and you've heard now about my approach to stuff. I never really thought about that as being anything other than just weird. And it was Daniel who cited that as being not just weird, but
say it.
I used to say that it was easier for me to understand, like it was easier for me to accept the idea that I had a high functioning mental illness than to be gifted. And it turns out that I am both. I am gifted and I have a high functioning mental illness. So thank you, Daniel, because that was some perspective that I needed, and probably especially needed at the time that we were having those conversations, and definitely helped me feel less alone, and getting to meet other people, and yeah, to not hide or be ashamed of things like my synesthesia or my hypervisual brain or my freaky memory or my spatial audio thing. And those are tools for me that I use in my life and my art, and I hid them for a long time because they set me apart from other people, and I just wanted to be normal like everybody else, and not get beat up in the schoolyard. And I don't have to worry about that anymore. And I'm so glad that there are people like you, Daniel, who are making safe spaces for people to come out of their living closets to share their work with the world.
Well, thank you. I don't know what else to say around that. And just that piece, so that like for anybody who is watching, to know that if you're in that place where it's like, I so resonate with so much of what you're saying. They're like being the strange kid who's getting beat up at school and elementary school and such, and hiding away so much of who you are. And there is this weird, powerful inversion that can happen where all of a sudden, when you just are like, either I don't have the capacity to hide my weirdness, or maybe I'm just tired of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, like, boom, all of this stuff shoots out into the world that let the people, instead of that little cloud of people who you're really worried about what they're going to think about you, all of a sudden, all of those other people who are able to resonate with how amazing and extraordinary and awesome you are, like now they can see you because you're letting that shine. And all of a sudden, who you're surrounded with starts to change. And just to really say that, especially for anyone out there who's feeling totally alien and isolated in your weirdness. Like, there is an enthusiastic set of people who can't wait to meet you, that
Yeah.
have to show who you are for them to figure that out. And obviously each of us has to figure out how we do that in our own way. But Claire, I think you're such a good like poster person for showing like this is what that can look like, and like the level, as you say, like as someone who did hide some of the pieces away, and like you do breathtaking stuff, and the fact that you're able to find the place of health and balance while also doing the things you're passionate about, and that it, like, people like, it's extraordinary stuff that you do and people love it. And yeah, just thank you again.
Well, thank you.